Hello and welcome back. This is video number 3, and we're going to talk about the desire trigger. Now, you might be wondering, why in the world are we at a toy website for kids? Or maybe why are we going to Amazon.com and looking at cool gets and gadgets? Well, I want you to think for just a moment. In the past months, or maybe even the past year, I want you to think of something that you really wanted. Was it a car? Was it something mental, a relationship? What could it be? So you could even think of it from your kid's perspective. As we're looking at this website, maybe your kid wanted this Nerf toy blaster, or maybe you did when you were little. So if you think back to those days, what was it? What was it about it that you really wanted? Now, if you can jot that down as part of an exercise, just jot down what kind of emotions, why you wanted exactly maybe that or maybe something else. What were the emotions that you felt? And what were the desires? What were the end results? Write those down right now. Okay, so hopefully you wrote down a few emotions. The reason why I wanted you to take this little exercise is because this is really what your customers are all about. You need to think about how you can motivate them from video 1, video 2, video 3, lesson, whatever, and motivate them by showing them that, okay, if you complete video 1, you'll get here. If you complete video 2, you'll get this desired result. If you complete half of this video course, you will get to this point and you'll be halfway there, but you'll get this and that. So hopefully that makes sense. Basically, you want to, number 1, give them a quick overview of what to expect so that they know exactly what is coming. If they know exactly what is coming, then they can get excited, right? They can get excited about what's actually to come. So that's why I'm showing this to you, is because it's a very similar concept of you wanting something or someone that you know wanting something. So even as adults, if we go to Amazon.com and maybe we're looking at shoes, maybe we want them because they will help us run better. Maybe our feet hurt, or maybe they'll just make us look more stylish, right? So that's why you need to understand your students, understand what they want to achieve. Now, obviously, the reason why they bought your course in the first place was because they wanted to achieve something. So just reiterating that in itself can actually be a big motivational factor or a desire trigger. Okay, so I already talked about this, but in practical terms, number 1, of course, create that list and show them what to expect. And number 2, simply reiterate what they want and try to, if you can, try to plug it in to the videos. So in video 2, perhaps could be about something and you relate it to whatever you're trying to teach, but you also talk about it as well. So you maybe talk about that desire that they want to achieve. In video number 3, you'll talk about the next step, what to do there, but also reiterate that desire. So along, you're just reminding them why they bought the course in the first place, because they had that excitement. You want to keep it exciting so that they complete the course. Now, like for example, this course, you could take it and you could add things in between. So there's a variety of things that you can do to make it interesting. And of course, only you really would know that, but we'll give you some practical application on how to go about doing that. Now, another way to achieve this is by creating a roadmap. So you can create a mind map or a roadmap or something to show them what's ahead. Now, a lot of people tend to be visual learners or kinesthetic, so they learn better by actually seeing. So to achieve that, you will definitely need to get access to something that can help you create roadmaps. So here are a few sites that will allow you to do that. Pictochart.com is one of them, and this site allows you to create infographics, and a lot of the infographics look really interesting and they have that kind of roadmap look. So not everyone, but some of them, and they have a ton of templates that you can pick and choose from. So if we go under here and we click on infographics, just to give you an idea of what this looks like. So this one here, for example, this is a good way to show it, or camping. This is a good way to show a roadmap and what to expect. And using graphics as well can help with that. So let's just go to this one right here. And actually, when I scroll down, you can see that this is a good example of a roadmap. So you can have video 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and give them an idea about what to expect and how that integrates with their actual desire. Now, some of these don't necessarily look like a roadmap, so of course steer clear of those, but the ones that do, definitely want to pick those up. Now, pictochart.com is not the only place where you can find infographics. There are many other places out there. Another place is called graphicriver.net. So we can go here, graphicriver.net, and type in infographic roadmap, click enter, and let's see what we get. So the first one you can see, it looks like a race car track. Now, obviously, when you pick infographics, make sure that they fit your demographics. In other words, they fit who you're actually going to target. So if this fits your course, then great, pick and choose that. So you see, this way your student can actually see, okay, this is video 1 or step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. And this is what they can expect. So some people, when they look at things, they're like, oh, I really want to learn what's in video 4, but before I can get there, I have to complete 3 and 2. Or, oh, I really want to look at 5 or 4 and 5, but I got to complete these to get there. So creating a roadmap and allowing people to see it visually allows them to actually start to think about what is actually going to come. Out of that, how are they going to get closer to this desire, and more. All right, so now that we've covered this, let's move on to video number 4. Hello and welcome to video number 5, and in this video we're going to talk about the human trigger. If you think about what else that motivates us to move forward, it's accountability. But you can't really have accountability if you don't have a platform or you don't have a WordPress plugin that allows you to achieve that goal. Now, you could say, hey, why don't I create a Facebook group and have a course and a group and have them separate? You could do that as an option if you would like to do that. However, and this can be a debatable subject, the thing is, when you separate the two, you have the online courses and then you have the Facebook group, it's too many distractions. So in other words, they could go to Facebook, they could get distracted by things on Facebook like what their friends are doing and all of that. Now, having it on your site will actually help move people forward because they're on your online course, right? So that makes sense. Now, if you were to go with Teachable, then that is an option. Bear in mind that the comment section is not as dynamic, meaning it looks like this. You post a comment and then of course the instructor comments right below. So it's kind of a blog style commenting system, but it's not as engaging as it would be like Facebook. Now, what if you could create your own Facebook but integrate it into your actual site? Well, there are options to doing that if you choose to use WordPress. And that gives you more flexibility to do that. One plugin in specific is called BuddyPress, and BuddyPress allows you to do that, and it integrates with LearnDash WordPress plugin. And BuddyPress, actually, you can install this if you want to. Many other plugins that design, the designs and everything like that go on top of BuddyPress. For example, one in specific is called BuddyBoss. BuddyBoss is very, very dynamic and very, very feature-rich WordPress theme that is built on top of BuddyPress. What it allows you to do is it allows you to build online communities that integrate with LearnDash. So not only do you have a community going on, you also have courses going on as well. Now, in addition to that, you can also integrate gamification, which we will talk about later on. But these three items, LearnDash, BuddyBoss, and the gamification system, will allow you to take things at a much further level and convert a lot more people into potential backend sales. Now, bear in mind that BuddyBoss does have a yearly fee. If you want to choose a different plugin, there's one called User, that's Youzer, as shown here. And this is a similar site. It's a WordPress community. And if you scroll down, you'll get an idea that it's very, very similar. Now, the reason why I recommend LearnDash and BuddyPress is because there's a lot more integrations that go into all of those. Whereas if you go with a proprietary system, then that is not so popular, then you run the risk of having a system that cannot scale and cannot expand. So that is how to implement the human trigger, or the human element, which is a community and the accountability into your online course. Hello and congratulations to this video course on how to boost course completion and engagement rates. We'll talk about how to boost higher online course engagement rates, which basically results in more back-end sales. Now, the reason why this is the case is because statistically, only 10% or less people who buy a course will actually complete the course. Now, if you think about it for just a second, if you have a course that you're selling and you have maybe 100 students and only one of them actually completes the whole course, 9 of them have the potential to buy your other courses, but maybe they're just not doing it. So getting your students to actually complete the course is going to help build more trust. See, what happens here is more trust that they have in you, the more that they'll buy from you. So that's the real reason behind why you want to make sure that you motivate your customers along and along. So this is video number 1, the introduction. So let's talk about mindset first. It's all about your customer and not about you. Now, in other words, what you need to do right now is to put yourselves in their shoes. Everything that we talk about in just a few minutes and within the hour, I want you to think, what is it that my customer is going to want? Not necessarily what you think your customer wants, but what exactly do you know about your customer? And this is going to reveal to you whether you know your customer or not, which is a good thing, because if you don't, you can always talk to your customers, survey them, and get a better idea. So, like I said, if you don't know that, talking to your customers one-on-one, sending them a survey, asking for feedback is a great way to get their opinion involved and you understanding how to help not only them, but future customers. Now, here are the other videos in this video course. Video number 2 will talk about the human brain. Now, you might be thinking, why are we talking about that? Well, the reason why is because understanding why we as humans chemically in our brain take certain actions and why we do, those are very important in terms of implementing that in your business. So you'll understand why we actually have to go over that part, and it'll become clear to you along and along. Video number 3 will talk about the desire triggers. So from this point on, we'll talk about triggers, and the desire trigger obviously relates to the human desire. Now, you're only going to know that if you've surveyed your customers, and we'll talk more about that in that video. Video number 4 will talk about the progress trigger. Video number 5 will talk about the human trigger. Video number 6 will talk about rewards and points. So course rewards. In this case, video number 7 will talk about engagement rewards, getting people to not only complete your course, but to engage with you. You see, Scientific studies have showed where when people see other people are involved, there's a group that's doing something, people become more intrigued as to what is happening in that group. So if people are talking in your community, they're more likely going to communicate as well. If they're not, then of course, maybe they are likely to not do that. Of course, video number 8 will talk about the attention trigger. Okay, so in terms of what you need, you're going to need to have some money to purchase some tools so that you can create triggers that we discuss and the solutions for those triggers and the reward system. Now, there are some free plugins out there, which I'll talk about later on, but to be honest, we've tested some of those and they just aren't great and will actually cause you a lot of headaches. Free is not always great because a lot of times things are not supported. All right. So with that said, let's move on to video number 2. Hello and welcome back. This is video number 6, and this is going to be about course rewards. We all as human beings desire to earn rewards because it is, of course, chemically embedded into our brains, which is the dopamine. But what does that look like in an online course setting? And how do you implement that in your online course? And more importantly, what software or WordPress plugin should you use to achieve this? So when it comes to course rewards, basically what this is you are rewarding people, and this is up to you. You can either just reward them for completing the course, or you can also reward them for completing segments such as the lessons, the topics, or the videos, or even taking a quiz. So it would look something like this. So imagine these squares being parts of the course. So that could be video 1, this could be video 2, this could be video 3, and this could be video 4. So what you would want to do is you want to figure this out, and I highly recommend that you mind map it out and set up a mind map. But you want to figure out where the rewards will be given. Will it be given for every single video? So if that's the case, you're going to want to specify that and show that on the mind map as such. And maybe as they go through, we could have them earn a few points, maybe a few points here, and maybe a few points here, and maybe a very, very big point over here. Or if you think about it, a lot of times people will watch part of the videos and then they'll quit. So what you could do is right around the area that you think, or that you've discussed this with your students, right around that area that there's a drop off, you can put more points there. Now, if you're using a learning management system, it should automatically tell you how many people are actually completing the course. So if it's like 50% are completing 50% of the video, then put it here, right? So that's what you're going to want to do, is figure out where you want the rewards to trigger. Once you have that in mind, then and only then can you really move forward and start to implement the whole process. Now, there are several different rewards that you can give. You can give badges, which basically says, hey, I completed this course, or you can give them rewards or points that they can use to get something that they want. Okay, so if we go back to LearnDash here, learndash.com, one of the unique features that they have is the course points. So you can award points for completing courses and unlock new ones. In addition to that, you also have certificates and badges. So these would actually relate to the kind of the badges. It's not necessarily something that they get, but it's sort of like a boost of reputation. So as you can imagine, people join clubs, they join societies, and they ultimately want to move up in the ladder. So when they get badges or they get certificates, they feel like they're unique. So a little bit of competition in there is a good thing. Now, in terms of what you can use for badges, let's say, for example, you don't use LearnDash, you can use a WordPress plugin. This is actually a plugin. It's called Badge OS. And what it is, it's, as you can see, it's a powerful WordPress plugin that allows you to create achievements and badges to show that your users have completed a certain task. So you could start with just this and only this if you would like to, but you can take it one step further, and there's a suite of WordPress plugins in terms of the gamification factor, which is called gamipress.com. They have tons of WordPress plugins. Some are free, some are going to cost you a little bit of money, but for the most part, you can just take the gamification process to a whole new level. But my recommendation to you is to keep it simple. Use LearnDash, use these as the course rewards, badges, and more. And then of course, we'll talk about engagement rewards in the next video. Hello and welcome back. This is video number 2, and we're going to talk about the human brain. Now, hopefully this is going to be insightful to you as well, because this can actually help you understand why we think the way we do, why we do things the way we do, and it might even help you get things done as well. So you might be wondering, why in the world are we talking about the human brain in a course about how to increase your students' consumption rate? But believe it or not, this is a big and huge part of getting to understand how to get your students to actually consume more. So even though I'm teaching you certain triggers, certain strategies, and things to implement, you might think of other things along the way that can actually help your students. Now, let's talk about dopamine for just a second. No, it's not a drug or anything like that. It's a chemical that's being produced by your brain. So according to webmd.com, it says, what is dopamine? Dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter. Basically, your body produces it. Now, I'm going to skip this paragraph and go straight to here, because this is the important part. This here says dopamine plays a role in how we feel pleasure. It's a big part of the unique human ability to think and plan, and it helps us strive, focus, and find things interesting. So as you can imagine, as you're going through the course, it's going to make people feel, oh, this is great. I completed this course, or I completed this topic, or I passed the quiz. It's sort of a reward chemical. So let's take a different perspective here. According to upmchealth.com, dopamine controls many functions, including behavior, emotion, and cognition. This chemical also communicates with the front of your brain, which is associated with pleasure and reward. So the last sentence is really what I'm trying to get at, and that's the most important part for this course, is that dopamine is produced and is associated with pleasure and reward. So let's move on over here, and this will kind of open your eyes as to how it actually relates to an online course. So obviously, if you can get people to finish, step 1, step 2, step 3, like this video course, if we can get you to go from video 1 to all the way to video 8 and complete it, guess what? You're going to feel excited. You're going to feel like you did something that you normally don't do, because the minority actually complete a course, but the majority does not complete the course. So you're going to feel great. And that's the dopamine chemical reaction in your brain. So in relation to your course, how can we create triggers essentially? So that's where we're going to talk about different triggers in terms of strategies, like the progress trigger, the desire trigger, the human trigger, and a bunch of other triggers as well, and what that looks like practically in your business. So for example, growtheengineering.co.uk, one of the items here is talking about online learning and gamification. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because most people like to play games. And the reason why is because those dopamine triggers they're just constantly triggering. So dopamine creates positive associations with learning. Dopamine, or the feel-good hormone, is released whenever we are rewarded for a specific action. Now, since gamification focuses on giving learners instantaneous feedback, which might not otherwise be available. By giving virtual rewards for achieving learning goals, learners begin to associate the learning with positive emotions, prompting them to try to repeat it again and again. So in other words, if you can create a positive, exciting, interesting, and fun, perhaps, experience at the beginning, they're going to want to go through. Now, what does that look like? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in the next few videos. So with that said, we'll see you there. Hello and welcome to video number 7. We're going to talk about engagement rewards. So it's one thing to earn rewards based on topics and lessons or courses completed. However, you want to make sure that people engage with your online course as well. So in other words, you want them to comment, you want them to perhaps talk to other students and engage with each other. So once you get people to engage with each other, more people will join in. And then of course, your online course will actually grow in terms of more engagement, which results in more back-end sales. Now, most of the time within online communities, the reality is that it sounds like crickets. It's silence. So because of this factor and because of this issue that only a few handful of people actually speak up, typically what we've found is 1 out of 100 people will actually speak up. So how do you get people to engage, comment, communicate with each other, and more? Well, what you can do is you can utilize GammaPress. GammaPress is a suite of WordPress plugins. It's not a SaaS platform, so if you use something like Teachable, you will not be able to do this. So in order to do this, you will need to have a WordPress site. Now, I have opened up a few tabs here. We've got free add-ons or free WordPress plugins that are extensions of GammaPress. So these are free. And of course, there are some that do cost some money. Now, you don't need to have all of these. What I would recommend you do is just pick a few. Now, GammaPress by itself, when we tested it, we found that you can set it up to say, if somebody comments, give them a certain amount of points. Or if somebody uploads media like a picture, a video, or an audio, then you can give them points as well. So to make more sense, let me find those plugins and I'll walk you through. So this can go past just engagement. It doesn't have to be only commenting. As you'll see in just a minute, there's so many different ways to gamify your site. But one thing to keep in mind is a lot of times you can get lost into this because, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. There's so many things that you could do. Okay, so on the free one, it says, this one's a button, and it says add activity events based on button clicks. So we don't really need that. Transfer notes, you don't really need any of that. Leaderboards can be a good thing to have, but I would recommend that you implement that after you've set up the main core of your site. Now, if we scroll down, this one actually is good to have. There's something called MyCred, which is kind of similar to GammaPress, but it does cost a little bit money to use. But in my opinion, I would just recommend that you stick with these plugins. And of course, as you can see, Badge OS Importer, that's good to have so that you can import different badges into GammaPress to be able to be used. Okay, so as you can see, in terms of the free extensions, so there's not a ton, but there's a few, like the multimedia content. So if you had this set up and you wanted people to upload a certain image, maybe their homework, maybe whatever it could be, and by getting them to engage, getting them to upload whatever content that you're asking them to do, they get points. And then they can use those points to like go to the store and spend money or spend the points to get access to whatever they want. So that's the multimedia one. Under Pro, these are actually ones that cost money. Now, depending on what platform you use to run your site, whether it could be easy digital downloads, it could be WooCommerce. In other words, in terms of your store. There's also something called time-based rewards. As you can see here, you can add time-based rewards to let your users come back to claim them. So you could have something like Christmas or Thanksgiving, a certain holiday, and get them to come back to your site to get the rewards. There are other things like restrict lock, which you can lock certain elements, certain media content until they take a certain action. Now there's conditional emails, conditional notifications. Conditional notifications is actually another really good one. This is not necessarily engagement, but whenever somebody gets points, you can trigger a notification, kind of like a pop-up that says, hey, you got this many points. So when people see that, that actually triggers some dopamine, triggers and gets people thinking, oh, wow, I got this, or I got this reward, I'm happy now, kind of thing. So scrolling down, a lot of these you don't really need. Referrals, that can be good. So these you don't really need. Transfers, daily login rewards is another good one, so that people can log in every single day to get rewards. So this can actually help you in terms of people that completely forget about your course. So if they log in every single day, they can get rewards by doing that. Now, if you scroll down here, if you're using something like WooCommerce, then you can use the WooCommerce Points Gateway. So what that means is as people are earning rewards or points, they can then go to your WooCommerce store and purchase with their points. So what this does is it kind of creates a bridge in between WooCommerce and your WordPress online community. So scrolling down here, here's a progress map. So this is really good for the progress trigger, which we talked about earlier. This one as well, this is kind of a circle progress map, and this one is more of a roadmap type thing. They have more, you can see it in when I open it up here. I scroll down. This kind of gives you a better idea of what it looks like. So this is more of kind of a roadmap. So this would do really well when it comes to progress maps. Now, a lot of these you don't really need, like these here, and leaderboards you can have, but as I said, implement that at the last moment after you've set everything up. Otherwise, it's going to get complex. So as you can see, you can really get lost and try to install every single one of these plugins. Now, bear in mind, each one of them costs money. Now, if you want, they have what we call these all access passes, where you pay a fee and you get access to either everything or certain things. What I recommend is just simply pick and choose the ones that you really need. And most of that is actually within GamerPress itself. In fact, if you just want to give people rewards and points based on commenting, GamerPress already has that built in. You don't need the add-ons. The add-ons is simply basically expands it and makes it more engaging. So hopefully that explains a lot of detail in terms of which plugin you should use, what site you should use, and all that. I know I'm not necessarily showing you how to use them, but a lot of this information that I'm telling you took many months to figure out many years ago. So you're getting the condensed version. So what I recommend again is just download GamerPress and start with the basics. You don't really need anything except maybe the progress map, the notifications, and this one's actually, these are pop-ups that come up. And then of course, eventually you want to have the daily points where the daily rewards, this one here, and this one here if you want to have a WooCommerce store. Those are the ones that I would initially start out with before moving to anything else. So I hope you enjoyed that video. We're going to talk about in the next video how to get your students back if they've totally forgotten about your course. Hello and welcome. This is video number 4, and this is going to be about the progress trigger. Now, another motivational factor that can help boost those dopamine triggers is by showing your students where they are in the course. In other words, in practical terms, the progress bars. Now, why is this important? Well, if you think about whenever you take a quiz, how many times have you taken a quiz and thought to yourself, when is this going to end? So, as you can imagine, this is most likely going to be in your customers' minds as well, especially if they have busy lives. So with a quiz, we found over the years what works really well to get people to finish a quiz is to have a progress bar at the very top. This allows your customer in relation to the course to actually see where they are in the course. So are they halfway through? Are they 10% in? Are they almost done? Where are they in terms of progress in the course? Now, in order to set up a progress bar, you either need to do some custom coding, or if you're using a WordPress site, you'll need to utilize a WordPress site plugin that integrates into your online course platform. Now, I'm going to give you some actual advice on which platforms we recommend in terms of online courses. There are many out there, but some of them have progress bars, and of course, some of them don't. Now, we can't speak for every single one out there, but one of them that does, and I find that to be really good site, is teachable.com. So Teachable is what we call a SaaS, a software as a service, and this is not a site that you own or a WordPress plugin. It's a third-party site where you can simply register, you can easily create a course, and the progress bars are implemented inside of them. Now, this is a great way to just get up and running if you don't want to run your WordPress site, set things up, and there's less configuration in terms of how that goes. Now, I will say, in terms of the other triggers that we'll talk about later on, especially the gamification, Teachable does not have gamification built in. So you will be limited to a certain degree if you go with a SaaS third-party platform. So if you want to do gamification, which we'll talk about later, and we'll talk about different plugins that you can use that we recommend, if you go that route, you will need to have a WordPress site. So the majority of people have a WordPress site, and that's why we're going to give you different options to go about that. Now, in terms of a WordPress site, here are the WordPress plugins that you will need. There are many learning management system plugins out there, but the best of the best that we found over the years in terms of testing is LearnDash.com. LearnDash has a ton of integrations, which means if you want to do different things with your site, for example, gamification or engagement or community, you can easily do that. And because they have a big team and they're constantly coming out with updates and their integrations are there's just tons of them, this gives you the ability to expand and scale at a later date. So LearnDash.com is a learning management system. So this allows you to create your courses and allows you to utilize some, reward triggers, engagement triggers. So there's stuff built in to LearnDash that you could utilize in itself if you just wanted to stick with that. Now, if you wanted to move to the next step, you could add more gamification. So as you can see, in terms of building courses, it's really easy. And as you can see, one of the key features is it manages learner progress. So it allows not only the learner to see where they are in the course. Are they halfway? Are they 75% through the way? It allows you to see as well. In fact, if you go over here in their knowledge base, you can see that there's a course progress bar that's actually built in. Now, I will say that by default, most learning management systems should have that. If they don't, then they are most likely very outdated. So definitely look for a learning management system. If it's not LearnDash, that's fine. There's a lot out there that are great, but this is something that we have used and tested and can highly recommend. So this in itself would help with that progress trigger and allowing the user and the student to see where they are allows them to think, okay, I'm halfway, I'm just going to push forward, get this done. You see, if there's no progress bar or there's no little motivational triggers, then they're going to think, okay, I don't know where I am, but I'm just going to stop now and come back later. And a lot of times there is no later because they just get distracted and they totally forget about your course. Now we'll talk about different strategies that you can use at the end of this video course on how you can get people back to your course if they totally forgot about your course. It will cost a little bit of money, but it's well worth it in the end as you've learned so far. All right, so with that said, let's move on to the next video. Okay, so welcome back. This is video number 8, and we're going to talk about how do you get people back to your online course or to your online community once they've forgotten everything about it and they've gotten sidetracked, they've totally forgotten. And it's not necessarily that they don't want to, it's just a lot of people are busy and get distracted really easily. So let's say, for example, that your system detects, and you've set this up to figure out, okay, this person has not come back to the course in like a week. Now you can set it up within your autoresponder series to remind them, and that's something that I would recommend that you do. But let's say, for example, a few weeks pass, and even though you've sent out those follow-up emails that are built in to your autoresponder series, they simply have totally forgotten about you and your course, and there's no way to get them back. You could email them, but that could potentially just annoy them. So how do you get them back? Well, in order to achieve this, you need to have Facebook Pixels installed and Google Ad Pixels as well. The method here is simply retargeting people. So let's say, for example, that this is your online community site. So we'll say online course/community. So this is here. And let's say, for example, that people come here, but yet they totally leave. So what you're going to need to have is you're going to need to do Facebook ads or even Google ads in terms of retargeting, meaning if you've ever gone to a website, let's say a home improvement store, for example, and you've gone to that site and you were looking at some sort of like tile replacement, and then you happen to go to a totally different website that has nothing to do with tile replacement, but you see ads from those home improvement stores. That's basically what retargeting is, and that's basically what you want to implement here. Now, you might be thinking, well, why would I want to spend money, right? Why would I want to spend, a few dollars to get people back? It's because the realization that if you can get people back and you're constantly following them around the internet and they're constantly reminded about your course, what will actually end up happening is it will embed into their minds. They might be at work or they're in a certain location where they have been cookied and those ads are following them everywhere. Now, in order to achieve this, you will need to have the pixel here. So I'm going to put a green box to signify a pixel. So we're going to, instead of an arrow, we are going to do a circle. So that signifies a pixel. Now, the reason why you need to have a Facebook pixel or a Google pixel on that particular page is because in order to retarget them, you need to have, they would have at least hit a page on your website. So the fact that they hit this page, you can now follow them around the internet by telling Facebook, hey, follow this person around the internet. And if they come back on their own choice and on their own decision, it's highly likely that those ads have worked. And now you have someone who doesn't feel forced. They feel like, oh, I really want to come back to take your online course. So that's basically the strategy here in a gist. And that's it. So congratulations on getting finished with this video course.